everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In this video I want to take you through how to cut and sew a beautiful bustier sundress. So this is the material here. This is everything I'm going to be using. I have my pattern. This is the fabric I'm going to be using: lining, zip and thread, and wording. Another material I'm going to be using for this that is not here is stay. So I have the pattern here, and I already made a tutorial on how to draft the pattern. This is what the pattern is looking like. So you can see that it's a two bustier dress. This is the pattern I'm going to be using for the dress. Now, these two materials here, this is a flounce. So I went ahead to whip the edge of the flounce. So now when I'm attaching it to the dress, it's going to have this look. Then I have these tiny strips of fabric, about 2 inches wide. I also went ahead to hem the edge of both of them, and I have about 8 of it. So this is it here. This is going to be used to make a ruffle for the bust area later. So I'm going to keep this aside, and then this is the fabric. For the fabric, I've also gone ahead to hem some parts. It's a chiffon material, a flower chiffon material. So this is the material I'm using for the dress. However, this is the down part of the dress, and then this is the lining I'm going to be using for it. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut my pattern on the fabric. Because this chiffon is a transparent fabric, you want a fabric to go underneath that will make it to not be transparent anymore. And then you're going to need another one to serve as the lining. So you want an interfacing for the fabric itself, and you want another one as the lining piece. So I've actually cut everything off camera. So I have my lining piece here. The reason why I didn't show you guys is because I already used this. I ironed it to my lining piece before cutting because I want the lining to have a bit more weight. For the back, this is the back of the pattern here. It's just one piece. I went ahead to add seam allowance to the top, to the armhole, and to the waist area. Of course, the zip area as well. So this is it. And you want to make sure you're cutting and fold so you get 2 sides complete. So I'm gonna have to cut another piece which I already used to make the fabric to not be transparent, and this is it right here for the back. You can see that I also ironed the stay to the lining that I used to cover up the fabric. I've cut the fabric out and I've fused the fabric to the lining. This is what it is looking like. I just used hemming gum on the edge all around to fuse it together, so it's not really fused in the middle. But as long as you cut it exact and iron it out, so it shouldn't be a problem. Just use hemming gum to fuse the fabric to the lining on all sides. If you're not using a transparent fabric, then you can skip this and just cut your fabric only and your lining. So this is the back already cut out. Then for the front as well, I cut everything in 2 places. So this one is the actual lining piece. You can see I already ironed stay to it. And just like I did for the back, you want to make sure that you add seam allowance all around. So if I place the pattern back on the fabric, you'll see that I've added seam allowance to everything already. So it might not be looking exact right now, but I've added 1/2 inch seam allowance to the armhole, the top area, and this side that I'm going to be joining down, as well as the waist. The same thing for the center front. Remember that when you're dealing with the center front, as long as you cut just one piece, this is just half of the center front. So when you're cutting the front pattern, you're going to place the pattern on the folded part of the fabric and just align it. After aligning, then you go ahead and cut it out. Also add 1/2 inch seam allowance all around. So that is how you are going to get a complete center front. So this is the lining part. Of course, know that this is usually cut on fold. So it's the exact same thing for each of the side fronts. This is what they call side front, and and this is center front. So this is the lining piece, and just like I did for the back, I already cut out the main fabric and the interfacing for the fabric, and this is it right here. I've also cut it out. I used hemming gum to also fuse the fabric to the lining so that it will stay as just one whole fabric. After cutting everything out, the next thing to do is to pad this front before you join anything together, and that is where this wording comes in. I'm going to be using wording to pad it. You can also use a bra cup, but I just like using wording for my corset and bustier, so I'm using a wording for this. And I've talked about how to pad a bustier in so many of my tutorials. For the sake of those that don't really know it, I'm going to come again on that. So I'm going to be using my pattern to do this, so it will be easy for you guys to see, because you can't really see all of the lines on the main fabric. So to pad a bustier, you just want to make sure that it stops exactly where the under bust stops, and you want this to stop right on the chest line. So this one is going to be very easy to do because it is a tube bustier, and remember that because it is the center front, whatever you are doing has to be on fold. So I'm just going to fold my wording into two, then place the center front line to match with this, and then I'm going to just go ahead and cut it out. You can see that it stops right on the under bust line. Remember that half of an inch seam allowance has been added to the main fabric, so I'm going to add that on the wording as well, so that when I place it to fit well. And if it's too much after ironing, because wording usually expands after you have ironed it sometimes, you can just trim off the excess. So this is the chest line. I'll just take it straight. You can definitely curve it a bit, but I'm just going to leave mine this way instead. So it's as simple as that for the front. Okay, there's usually a shining side for the wording and the side that is not shining. It's the shining side that you want to be facing the wrong side of the fabric, because that shining side has a glue, so when you iron it, everything is going to stay put. This is it for the center front. You do not want the wording passing the under bust and the chest line, whether you are doing it for a tube or not. Now the other part is for this side front. The side front is also quite easy to do. I'm going to use this piece to work on the center front. So just like I did for the side front, you do not want it passing the under bust point, first of all. Then you can see that there's seam allowance here. You do not want it reaching into the seam allowance. And lastly, you want to take off like an extra 1 inch, so it will be stopping around here instead of reaching into the seam allowance. Okay, you can even decide to let it reach this point, but it must not get into the seam allowance. I just think it's better, more professional, for 1 inch to also be cut off from it. So I'm going to just place it in the way that the seam allowance is out and the wording stops right at the under bust point. So I know I just have to fold up this pattern this way, and I've eliminated the chest line here. You can even just take up the 1 inch right now. This is it. Okay, you can see that 1 inch is off, and then make sure it's still stopping right at the under bust point. So guys, I'm really sorry that my camera stopped working, so I have to explain what I missed out. You can see that I finished cutting everything. So this is the part I was explaining. So I said that you take off the seam allowance, take off 1 inch, make sure that the under bust and everything rhymes, then fold in from the chest line and cut. So that is exactly what I did. And I just made ahead to curve all of these parts, and this is what I have. So you're going to cut it in 2 places. make sure that you face right sides together or wrong sides together, so you don't get two of the exact same piece. So that's what I did, and this is what I have. Then I also explained that if you're not sure that all of the under bust points match, you can go ahead and measure it. So this, for this side front, is very obvious where the under bust stops, and it is here. This is exactly 7 inches. So you can come to this center front and measure what you have. What I have here is also 7 inches. The reason why I did not notch it is because of the kind of fabric I'm using. It's very, very lightweight. So you have to be careful with cutting unnecessarily. Although now that I've fused it, I can actually go ahead and notch it. I don't need to do that anymore. And then for this side, it's also 7 inch. When you come here, it's 7 inch. So you can just measure it and make sure that all of the sides align. So remember, it's the shiny side that's facing the wrong side. So I'm going to use my steam iron to press everything down. Some wording, this part does not glue. So you can also use hemming gum. Place hemming gun in between before you iron so it stays put. I'm going to go ahead and iron it, and then we move on to joining everything together. So guys, I've gone ahead to iron the wording to the fabric, and this is what I have. You can see that it's firm. So now the next thing you want to do is join all of this together. To join it, you're just going to face right sides together and pin it down. Then use that 1/2 inch seam allowance to join it. So I'm just going to pin this way. So you're going to stitch them down. You of course know that for this side you have to follow the curve to get it. Then come and do the same thing for this side. So this is the neck point. So I'm going to stitch it down, do the same thing for this side. So guys, this is what it is looking like after I'm done joining the sides together. The next thing to do is to iron it out, and for this I have my tailor's ham. So you just want to open it up and then press the seams open like this. So after pressing it, you want to go ahead and notch the points, especially the under bust points. So take it in slants. So this is what it is looking like. You can see it is standing properly. So I'm going to repeat the same thing for this side to have a really nice curve. Like after I'm done ironing it, and you can see that it's standing properly. This is how you want yours to be. So now the next thing to do is to join the sides. So I'm doing an inseam finishing for this one. If you're not doing an inseam finishing, turn the lining for the front separate and then for the back separate. But for this one, I want an inseam finishing. So I'm just going to place this side this way and then stitch down using my seam allowance. That should complete the back. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this side, and then the entire front will be complete. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that down using my 2-inch seam allowance. So guys, I've gone ahead to join the sides, and this is what it is looking like, and I've repeated the exact same thing for the lining piece. So now the next thing to do is to trim off the excess seam allowance. I'm just going to trim off 1 inch from what I originally have. So I have a little bit of excess on the neckline here, which I'm going to trim. So what I want to do now is turn the lining and the fabric together. I originally made a ruffle that I was going to attach to the bust area. So that strip of fabric, I attached everything together and gathered up the middle. So I wanted to attach it like all around the side, but second thought, I don't really like the vibe. I feel like the pink is too much. Maybe I would have used the orange or the exact color of the fabric. So I think it's too much. I'm not going to be using it anymore. I'll probably find a way to reuse it for this dress. So now what I want to do is to turn the lining and the fabric. This strip of fabric that I showed you guys earlier is what I'm going to be using as the strap for this. And remember that this is optional. If you're not going to attach a strap, or you want your strap to be smaller, just make sure that it is right on the bust band line. Then you want to thin out the armhole to rhyme with this. But because I know I'm going to be attaching a strap, that's why I left it this way. So you don't want the strap to enter into the seam allowance that you're going to use for turning the armhole. It's the same technique I used for the back. I just measured out the bust span area, excluding the zip allowance, and that is where I pinned the straps to. That's always going to give you exactly what you want. You don't want it to be too close or here. So this is it. I've pinned all of the straps. Now I'm going to get my lining piece and also place it like this. So you want to face right sides together, and then go ahead and pin everything down. So this is how you want to pin your strap before attaching the lining. So now when you sew it, everything is going to be neat on the inside. So I'm going to start with the center. You want to pin it this way and then move on to this side. So for the back, everything should match. As long as you took the right measurements, shouldn't be an issue. This is it. You want to stitch this way. I'm going to repeat the same thing for this other side. Pin it down and stitch all round, excluding here. But if it is like a blouse, then you want to stitch all of this side, stitch one part of the zip and stitch like half of this zip part, turn it out from here and top stitch the edge here. But this is the dress, so I'm going to leave this entire side bare. I've gone ahead to stitch everything down. Next thing you want to do is to just trim off these sharp points so it will relax properly. Then you want to notch this neckline. Okay, and then trim off the excess here. So after doing all of that, you want to flip it over, and as you can see, the strap is looking very neat on the outside. So you want to just press everything down to make sure that it is relaxed properly. So this will be tied together. Same thing with the other side. So go ahead and press everything down. So guys, I've gone ahead to press it, and you can see that it's laying really nice. Everything is looking very neat on the inside as well. So now the next thing to do is to attach the skirt part. So remember I said I'm doing a gathered skirt for this. I've gone ahead to gather it up. You just want to cut a fabric that is your hip measurements times 2, times 3, times 4, depending on how full you want it to be. You can cut a circle skirt, you can make a layered skirt, whatever you want. But I'm going for a gala skirt. So I have the fabric here, and remember you need one to serve as interfacing. So this is it. I've gone ahead to gather it to my waist and attached the lining as well. So you gather the lining separate, gather the fabric separate, then stitch it down using a normal straight stitch. Then I went ahead to attach the flounce. I have a video on how to cut a flounce. If you're interested, I'll probably just leave a clip on the side in case if you want to just glance through it. So I cut out a flounce and then gathered it up just a little bit, then attached it to the end of the skirt. This is it right here. The main thing I want to show in this part is just how to attach everything neatly. So this is the first part. Then I have the main lining gathered up already. Yeah, I know that the color of the lining is different, but this part is not going to show because it's on the other side. So you want to also gather up this lining to match the waist measurement. So you want to measure everything you have here. So this part, you're going to need your pins for this. There are two ways you can go about fixing this. You can join this one first, then go ahead and join this other one. But first, you just join everything at once. So that is why you're going to need your pin. So as usual, when you want to join fabrics together, you want to face right sides. So this way, but I'm going to take out half of an inch because I'm going to be using that to turn with the lining later so that this side is also very neat. So I'm just going to leave half an inch here, as you guys can see, and then place it right on the dress. So you can go ahead and stitch this part down before attaching the lining. So this is what I'm going to do. This lining part, you want to just place it underneath, take out half of an inch as well, and pin it. So basically the corset is going to be in between. Sorry, the bustier is going to be in between the fabric and the lining, so it's going to give it a neat look. And you're just going to go ahead and pin everything down. It's very important to pin this part so that one side will not shift when you are sewing. When you get to this side, you are also going to leave half of an inch. Same thing for the lining. After pinning it down, I'm going to stitch it. So one thing you need to notice that because of this area is a basque, let me open up the side. Because this area is triangular, there is a high chance that this side is going to come down a bit more than the other side. So you can go ahead and leave the edge of the dress raw so that you can trim it up to make it equal on the mannequin before you hem it. But I think I like that. I want that effect on my dress. So I'm going to stitch it, and you'll see that when I'm done sewing it, the inside is going, this side is going to be neat, and here is going to be neat as well. So I'm going to stitch everything down. Then I'll show you guys how I'm going to do this side. Basically just want to stitch it down, stitch all of them down together, do the same thing on the other side, but I'll take you guys through it. So I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera. I've gone ahead to stitch it down, and this is what it is looking like. So now the next thing to do is to close up this side. I've done one side already for you guys to see. I didn't sew it to the end because I've not hemmed the lining edge yet. So that half of an inch I told you guys to leave, you're going to go and stitch from that half inch point all the way down. And when you flip it over, you'll see that this part is going to come out looking neat, and it won't cut off from the body of the dress. So that's why I need to leave half of an inch. So I've stitched one side, and as you guys can see, the outside and the inside of the dress is very neat. You just want to make sure you trim off the excess and iron it flat. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch down this side using that half of an inch. You can see the half of an inch is quite obvious. I'm going to grab the fabric plus the interfacing and then the lining part and just hold everything down and stitch. So note that you do not want the lining to be on the same level with the dress. It should be like 2 inches shorter. So that's what I did. And now I'll just go ahead and stitch this side down. So after doing that, what we'll be left to do is close the back of the dress and attach a zip. I'm going to go ahead and do all of that and then show you guys the final look of the dress. As for this flounce, I'm not sure of what I'm going to do with it. I might just abandon it, but if I like the look, I might end up putting it on the neckline here, or making like a flower on each side. So with the ruffle, you just rotate it. I will find a way to either use it or not use it at all. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the dress and show you guys the final look. This is the final look. I really love how this turned out, and I have more summer dress tutorials coming up, so make sure you subscribe so that you won't miss it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.